If I could ask my fellow board members to return back to the board floor. Could rise for the pledge to the flag in a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Do we have any additions to the agenda tonight? All right. Dr. Aguilar, any opening comments?
Yes, sir, and I'll be brief. The Lafayette Parish School System was recently advised that we will be awarded a $1,221,000 redesign grant by the Department of Education. This money will be used to assist improvement of student achievement. Beginning this fall, grant money will be utilized to improve student performance in the district's transformation zone of schools. These schools include Alice Boucher, Karen Crowe Heights, J.W. Falk, Lafayette Middle, Karen Crowe High, Northside High, and N.P. Moss. As part of the district's improvement plan, grant money will be allocated to provide high-quality, state-approved curriculum materials in English and math, professional development for faculty and staff in order to effectively implement the curriculum, and the development of valid diagnostic assessments. Within the Department of Early Childhood, the district's On Track by 5 Alliance, in partnership with the University of Florida's Early Learning Department, has developed a BESI-approved ancillary program. Our On Track by 5 program was one of 18 approved programs in the state. On Saturday, June 23rd, we will be graduating our first cohort of 16 students who are currently working in child care centers throughout Lafayette. Board members, we have several construction-related updates that I would like to share with you. First of all, the gymnasium air conditioning projects are progressing well. 9 of the 18 gyms are up and running with air conditioning, and the remaining 9 are expected to be fully functional within the next 4 weeks. We are seeing forming for the concrete foundation at B.O. Elementary, which began this week. The Como High Performing Arts Academy building is approximately 40% complete at this point. The Milton Elementary Middle Classroom Wing Addition will be completed by mid-July, and so that staff can begin moving furniture in. We visited Westside Elementary on Tuesday. Ms. Morrison was along with us, and we toured the classrooms, which are largely complete at this point. The student desk and teacher supplies are starting to be placed in the rooms. The administrative kitchen and cafeteria renovations are continuing and will be completed in July. And lastly, you may experience some traffic jams in Lafayette. We are starting to move temporary buildings. In fact, 5 leased portable buildings have been returned to the vendors, and 8 board-owned buildings will be relocated to several campuses by the end of the week, and several more rental buildings will be returned in the next few weeks. And that concludes my remarks.
Thank you. We are going to go a little bit out of order tonight. We're going to do the informational items after the consent agenda. So I'm going to move right into the consent agenda. And I'm going to read through them. I'll ask my board members to pull what they would like to pull off the consent agenda. 3.1, Superintendent Evaluation Results.
Pull that, please.
3.2, Adoption. Excuse me, Adoption of new health textbooks, grades 6 to 9. 3.3, Approval of bid award for number 1825 milk and milk products. 3.3, Approval of bid award for number 1826. Sorry, my screen's shifted. Bread and bread products. 3.5, Approval of bid award for number 18 1829 paper and janitorial supplies. 3.6 approval of bid award for number 1830 small kitchen equipment and supplies. 3.7 approval of bid award number 1828 dry and frozen food. 3.8 approval of environmental consulting services 1-year contract extension. Pull that, please.
Yeah, 3.15?
3.8, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
3.9 approval of bids for central office annex building renovations. 3.10 budget revision to 2016 bond construction fund for HVAC gymnasium robotics area at W.D. Smith Career Center. 3.11 ratification of approval of bids for Acadiana High driveway improvements. 3.12 ratification of approval of bids for Boucher Elementary parent driveway. 3.13 ratification of approval of quotes for Leo Judice Elementary exterior doors replacement. 3.14 approval of HVAC maintenance contract change order for FY 2018-2019. 3.15 approval of year 2 contract extension for garbage collection services.
Pull that, please.
3.16 approval of Como High Performing Arts Academy building change order. 3.17 amendment to purchase of property for future Prairie site replacement. 3.18 approval of listing contract to lease property old Logan site. 3.19 approved proposal recommendation interpreter services RFP number 2419. 3.20 approve bid award C4M robotics bid number 0119. In 3.21, also pull robotics hand tools, nuts, bolts, other materials bid number 1919. 3.22 approved bid award calculators bid number 0219. 3.23 approved bid award duplicator ink and masters bid number 0319. 3.24 approved bid award P gravel bid number 0919. 3.25 approved bid award number 610 limestone bid number 11-19. 3.26 approved bid award cold mix asphalt bid number 1419. 3.27 approved bid award red mulch bid number 1219. 3.28 approved bid award landscape timbers bid number 1319. 3.29 approved bid award sports medicine supplies bid number 0419. 3.30 approved bid award homeless department mesh backpacks bid number 1719. 3.31 approved bid award nursing supplies latex free products bid number 0519. 3.32 approved bid award homeless department school uniforms bid number 1619. 3.33 approved bid award homeless department school supply kits bid number 2619. 3.34 approved proposal recommendation universal screening and progress monitoring RFP number 2519. 3.35 sales tax collection report for April 2018. 3.36 sales tax collection report for May 2018. 3.37 grant fund summary May 2018. 3.38 budget tax report May 2018. 3.39 finance 2019-2020 budget recap and timeline. 3.40 resolution 06181934 final approval of the issuance of sales tax revenue bonds. 3.41 safety initiative school resource officer program.
Pull that, please.
3.42 human resources director of career and technical education Magnet Academies job description Aguilard. 3.43 revisions to the 2018-2019 salary booklet. 3.44 WD and Mary Baker Smith Career Center principal position. 3.45 policy DFL sale of buildings and lands. 3.46 basic life insurance for retirees.
Pull that, please.
Alright, so I'm going to recap quickly the ones we pulled. Please review with me. If I missed one, let me know. I have 3.1 was pulled, 3.8, 315, 320, 321, 341, 346. Did I miss anything? And we'd like to pull also 3.9 and 3.10. Sounds good? Correct.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve all agenda items not pulled.
We have a motion and a second to approve all agenda items that were not pulled. Do you have any public comment on any of the agenda items that we are about to vote on that were not pulled? Any board member comment? Madam Secretary, call for the vote.
Nine for, none against.
All right, motion passes. We are going to go a little bit out of order tonight. We're going to start with 3.1, then we're going to skip to 341, and then we'll go back into the regular order. I need someone.
Yeah, I'll pull 3.1. I move that the board go into executive session to discuss item 3.1, superintendent evaluation results.
Second.
All right. Before we take that vote, Dr. Aguilar, do you have any objection of us going into executive session?
No.
Thank you. So do we have any public comment on us going into executive session? Any board member comment? Madam Secretary, call for the vote. Motion passes. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to retreat back into the conference room to go into executive session. We'll be back out shortly when we'll talk about item 341.
President, I move we go back into regular session.
We have a motion and a second to return back into regular session. Can I get a voice vote? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, we're back in regular session.
Mr. President, I move that the board approve the compiled superintendent evaluation results from the scoring tabulators.
We have a motion and a second. Sorry, I have to read that one. That the board approve the compiled superintendent evaluation results from the scoring tabulators. Do we have any public comment on this? Any board member comment? Madam Secretary, call for the vote.
Eight for, none against.
All right, motion carries. We're going to now do item 341, and for those in the audience, we are going back into executive session for this. That's the plan. So at this time, I'd like to entertain a motion.
Make a motion that we go into executive session to discuss 3.41.
We have a motion and a second to go into executive session to discuss safety initiatives 3.41.
I make a motion that we go into executive session to discuss 3.41 Finance Safety Initiative School Resource Officers Program. Oh, I don't even have it. It didn't open.
You mind if I read it
Go
for
ahead.
you? I move that we go into executive session to discuss the school resource officer program pursuant to statute RS 42:17 to discuss school safety security.
I'm going to invite them in. No, they can fit. They can fit. All right, we have a motion and a second to go into executive session. All in favor of going into executive session? Aye. Any opposed to going into executive session? Ayes have it. We're going into executive session. And for the officers in the room, at this point, we only really need the LPSO guys to come in with us. Thank you. Oh, wow.
like to make a motion that we go back into regular session.
We have a motion and a second to go back into regular session. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, board meeting's back in regular session.
Mr. President,
Mr. Hidalgo.
I move that the board approve all agreements attached to the agenda.
Second.
Item 3.41, allowing the president authorization to make, in addition, allowing the board president authorization to make minor revisions as necessary prior to signatures.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve all agreements attached to the agenda item 3.41, allowing the board president authorization to make minor revisions as necessary prior to signature. Do we have any public comment on this item? And so that the public understands what we're voting on, I know we went straight into executive session. Essentially what we're voting on are the cooperative endeavor agreements and associated attachments to fund our enhanced school resource officer program that is going to put at least one police officer, including a command structure and intelligence structure, in every supporting, but let me correct that, one SRO officer in every school along with the respective command and intelligence structure to enhance school security in Lafayette Parish. So that's what we are voting on. If anybody has any public comment on that item, please come up and speak with us. Any board member comment on the item? Mr. Angel.
Yeah, I have a public comment. I would like to thank the sheriff and all of his employees, the city police, all of the municipal police chiefs and their people in Lafayette Parish, our fellow members of the school board. We've attended numerous meetings, budget meetings, personnel meetings, and I just want to express my appreciation for all those involved. I think the safety of our children is paramount, and I think this is going to improve that safety as much as we can, and I'm appreciative, and I want everyone to know it. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Aguilar.
Yeah, Mr. Knezlik and board members, I would like your permission to move those documents into the public section so that once the vote is taken, that the public will be able to access those documents.
I would say not attachment A.
Not attachment A.
Attachment
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Mr. President,
Mr. Hidalgo.
I just want to take a minute to echo Mr. Angel's comments. This was a long process, a lot of debate, a lot of agreement and disagreement along the way, and I think that the agreement, disagreement, and debate has made this, if this so passes, has made this newfound relationship as solid as a rock. So thank you to all law enforcement agencies involved in this process. We do look forward to working with you.
Thank you. Any other board member comment? Madam Secretary, call for the vote.
Eight, 4, none against.
All right, motion passes. And just want to reiterate, I'm going to speak on behalf of Ms. Morrison because she had a family event to get to. She would have also voted in favor of this, which sends a strong message out to all our municipalities and the sheriff that you know, this board is behind you. School security is obviously a huge priority for us. We just funded several $1 million to enhance school security to protect our babies. So again, thank you. Like my fellow board member said, thank you very much for the process. And Mr. Latchley.
And each and every one of you in law enforcement in this parish, please, please, please remember, we have an open door policy. We've got email, we've got phone. Some of you even know where I live. We've got to talk about something. Come to us, okay? Thank y'all.
All right. And as Mr. Angels always reminds us, if you guys have another meeting to go to, please go ahead. Please go protect and serve. Yeah. Thank you. And we are going to revert now back to our informational items and go back to item 2.1, ASBO Certificate of Excellence and GFOA Award of Financial Reporting Achievement for the FY 2016-2017 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. But before we do that, I'm going to ask for us to just take a quick recess so we can say goodbye to a few people. I'd like to ask my board members to return back. All right, we are back into recess is over, back in regular session. We're returning back to 2.1. I read it earlier. I'll read it again. ASBO Certificate of Excellence in GFOA Award of Financial Reporting Achievement for the FY 2016-2017 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. Dr. Aguilar?
I'm going to turn
This
this
is
over
information.
to Mr. Guidry.
Mr. Guidry?
Yes, we have two national organizations, the Association of School Business Officials, acronym ASBO, and the Government Finance Office Association, GFOA, that we submit our comprehensive annual financial report to them for review, so that, and then we get their comments back subsequent to their review. This is basically the result of their review. To quote the one of the phrases included in GFOA award, it indicates that the award represents a significant achievement and reflects your commitment to the highest standard of system financial reporting. Something we take a great deal of pride in, and I thought it was important that we share this with the board and with the public, and I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the board and administration for the support that allows us to do this, and especially the staff and the Business Services Division that makes this happen through their daily actions. Thank you.
Mr. Guidry, I'd like to just personally say congratulations. I know it's not easy to be the best in your field, but I think this confirms that your shop is obviously one of the best in the field. All right, next item on the agenda, 2.4, list of bids approved to be advertised by the superintendent. Okay.
That's a regular monthly report showing the bids that have been released.
Okay, and I'll just read them just for clarity. Bid number 2619, homeless department, school supply kits, 2719, library books, 2819, library periodicals, 3119, large kitchen equipment. Next item on the agenda, 2.3, human resources, personnel changes for June 13, 2018. Ms. Thibodeau.
Good evening, board. We have two introductions tonight. First, I would like to introduce the new principal at Alice Boucher Elementary School. It's Catherine Guillory. Catherine has earned a Bachelor of General Studies degree from UL Lafayette and 2 Master of Education degrees from Northwestern State University. Ms. Guillory began her teaching degree at St. Michael's Elementary School in Crowley. She then taught ELA at LJ Alamo for 6 years and was promoted to be the instructional strategist, where she served for 5 years. She is currently serving as the assistant principal, or she was currently serving as the assistant principal at Judy's Middle School. Congratulations on your appointment, Ms. Guillory.
Good evening, Mr. President, board members, Dr. Aguilar. I am very excited to accept the principal's position at Alice Boucher. I have spent several days on campus already, and there are great things happening at Boucher, and I already feel quite at home there. I will be working with a wonderful group of assistant principals, Ms. Marcel, Ms. Sampay, and Ms. Dyson. They know and care about the children and the families. They are a huge asset to Boucher, and I can tell that we will already be a great team. I still haven't met all of the faculty, but the teachers that I have met are professional and hardworking, and they want the students to be successful. It is my goal that Alice Boucher becomes a model school for Lafayette Parish. I want all of Boucher's students to transition to middle school reading on grade level, being able to analyze a volume of words, using literacy to answer academic questions, and be able to creatively solve problems. I want the children of Boucher to be the pride of their community and to feel how much their community supports them and wants them to be their best. The students need community involvement, and I will be working very hard to engage the community in Boucher's progress. I have been extremely lucky to work under some wonderful principals, and as someone said yesterday, I was brought up right. Miss Aloisio, Miss Gardner, Miss Fontenot, thank you for coaching me and guiding me all these years. I appreciate the opportunities you have given me to learn and grow, and I hope that I make you proud. Lastly, to my poor family, thank you for your patience with the long hours and what seems like my singular focus. I couldn't do this job without your support and understanding. I want to invite all the members of the board to visit Boucher and to become a part of our school community.
Thank you.
Next, I would like to introduce Ms. Cherie Fontenot, principal at J.W. Falk Elementary School. Ms. Fontenot earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in elementary education from UL Lafayette and a master's degree in educational leadership from the American College of Education. Ms. Fontenot served as a middle school teacher at Sacred Heart Elementary School and director of education at Our Lady Queen of All Saints Catholic Church. Also, she served as an elementary teacher for 4 years at James Stevens Montessori School in Ville Platte and 5 years as principal of James Stevens Montessori School. James Stevens is a high-poverty, high-performing school and was one of 2 A schools in Evangeline Parish during her tenure as principal there. She joined the LPSS team in 2016 when she was chosen to be the principal of Green Tea Linden. She spent 2 years leading the team at GT Linden. In addition to her service, Ms. Fontenot is a National Board Certified Teacher and has earned an International Montessori Teaching Certificate. She has earned many awards, including Teacher of the Year at James Stevens Montessori School and the Outstanding Community Contribution Award by the Ville Platte Mayor. Her school was a top gain school in 2012 and in 2014. Her highest professional accomplishment was being awarded Louisiana Elementary Principal of the Year in 2016. Congratulations, Ms. Fontenot.
Good evening. Thank you, board members, President, Dr. Aguilar, Mr. Craig, Ms. Trotclair, for recognizing me this evening and giving me an opportunity to say a few words. While it has been a great pleasure to serve as the leader at Green Tea Linden for the past 2 years, I'm so excited and so optimistic about the future of Falk. You know, William Butler Yeats said that education is not the filling of a pail, but it's the lighting of a fire. And that's what the kids at Falk deserve. They deserve a fire. They deserve to have a world-class education that enables them to grasp any and every opportunity that this life will afford them. And I believe that that's possible. With high expectations, with a laser-like focus on student needs, and with the right support, socially, academically, and emotionally, I believe that this is possible for Falk. I spent the last week at Falk getting to know the team. While I haven't met everyone there, those that have been there are singular in their vision and in their conviction that Falk will succeed. I've been studying data and seeing some very good indications of already growth that's happening at the school. As a matter of fact, 10% of the students who were in RTI last year were moved out of RTI at the end of the year, and that's really an incredible feat. So I'm very optimistic about the future of Falk. I'm very proud and excited to be given the opportunity to serve, and I am ready for the challenge and I'm committed to the task. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you very much. We're on to our next agenda item, which will be 3.8. We're going back to the items pulled. Next item is 3.8, approval of environmental consulting services, 1-year contract extension.
Mr. President, I move that the board approve 3.8.
Correct.
Move that the board approve a 1-year contract extension for environmental consulting services with Ritter Consulting Engineers Limited with asbestos management, plan fees for year 2 not to exceed $23,500 under the same terms and conditions as contained in the original request for proposals.
We have a motion by Mr. Hidalgo, second by Mr. Angel, to approve the one-year contract extension for environmental consulting services. Any public comment on the item? Any board member comment on the item? Mr. Bordelon, did you have something you wanted to say? Madam Secretary, call for the vote. Yes. He's absent. Dr. Chasson, did you vote? Or I wanted a second.
7 for, none against.
Motion passes. Next item was 3.9, approval of bids for central office annex building renovations. A motion by Dr. Chasson with a second by Mr. Hidalgo to approve the motion for central office annex building renovations. Any public comment on this? Any board member comment on this item? No board member comment. Madam Secretary, call for the vote.
Seven for, none against.
Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is 3.10, budget revision to 2016 bond construction fund for HVAC gymnasiums robotics area at W.D. Smith Career Center. Dr. Chasson.
I'd like to move approval.
Motion by Mr. Hidalgo, second by Mr. Angel to approve the budget revision for 2016 bond construction fund for HVAC gymnasium robotics area at W.D. Smith's Career Center.
So I know on the phone earlier today, Mr. Craig explained to me what's going on with this particular project. Could you just explain that again? This is the HVAC at the W.D. Smith Center.
So as part of our robotics initiative, we're doing some renovations over there at the Career Center Gymnasium. It's actually 2 months ago it was two carpentry laboratories, and so we're looking for a performance center for robotics competitions. And so what we've used maintenance and some external contractors is to pull out old and used carpentry equipment, take out divider walls, close some gas lines. We're going to rework the floor. We're working on some paint, scraping some loose paint in the ceilings. And what we're looking for is, we've got several robotics programs in our schools, and we're looking for a competitive site where we can host competitions and we can encourage the growth of a competitive robotics program in the parish. We were there earlier this week, and really everything's kind of been cleared out. The floor's ready to be kind of cleaned up, and whatever texture we'd like to move forward with in terms of a competition floor. I know there's money budgeted for air conditioning in that gym, and kind of depending on how the board wishes to proceed with robotics, we're ready to complete a competition gym, competition arena for robotics, or potentially now we've got a usable space for any other need the parish might have.
All right, so Mr. Craig, that answered one of my questions, that if for whatever reason the robotics thing didn't take off, it would be usable for either a gym for students who are at that location or for any other multi-use purpose.
Yeah, it's a nice open space that's secure that we could use for either student activities or possibly administrative use.
Okay, so this request is for an additional $198,000 for this. What other monies have we already approved for renovations to this particular gym, and how much?
So we had a sum of money that was in capital projects to make improvements to the facade of the building itself. And so we are tapping into that money, believing that it's appropriate to spend it at the WD Center. And so that's where the painting is going on and the mechanical work to get the floor up to date. Aside from that, we had $200,000 of capital projects money that is set for some of the bids to be received tonight. That's for the equipment for the robotics program at the WD Center. We also, I just want to call to the board's attention, we understand that it's going to be challenging to get high school kids to commit to go to that program. We are in active discussions with Paulboro Middle School, specifically the kids attending there, to walk over and participate in robotics as an enrichment program. We intend to build it, if necessary, at the middle school level, robotics interest in the parish, and this will be one of its kind environment where we can host the robotics competitions, which we don't have at this point in Lafayette at all.
I have more questions about the Paulboro thing, but I think I'll defer it to the other two agenda items on the robotics program. Thank you.
Mr. Craig, I have a general question. If we're going to, it sounds like we're building some sort of competition level robotics facility that can host competitions. Is there any sort of opportunity for revenue generation with charging fees to teams from outside the parish that come in? Is there an opportunity for that, or is that really just kind of like a
it probably meets your cost? Yeah, it's probably basically cost neutral. All those competitions are actually very expensive. Just from my former experience with them, thousands of dollars in terms of entry charges, but your overhead in terms of labor and supervision, those are also pretty high. I wouldn't see it as a revenue generating program, but it would keep you from taking from our budget. We could at least be in the positive on it.
Yeah. Or at least we could make it enough to maybe enhance our own robotics program.
And Mr. Knesk, I'm thinking that we send that money to the robotics program for the admission and the entry into the competitive environment. The robotic competitions are played out on a field. It's a given size. None of our schools currently have the capacity to put this field down and have kids actually perform, compete, practice on the competitive field. This gym is large enough that we could have 2 competitive fields. We are moving in about 90 seats of bleachers, 90 seat capacity, so parents can spend time with their children as they engage in practicing and working on robotics activities. We think this is going to be exciting, and we think it's going to grow.
I'd be happy to help participate in any sort of business plan revenue generation model. Maybe we can get ESPN to sponsor us or something. So, any other board member comments on this item? Madam Secretary, call for the vote. Hey, Mr. Bordelon, well, while we're waiting for the vote to come up, can I make a special request to clean the windows?
Mr. Knezik, we have cleaned those windows with every cleaner we can possibly clean them with. We've even had a glass company come out and tell us that whatever chemical was used on it many, many years ago, it has actually etched the glass, and the only way to get that off is to change the glass. So if you'd like to spend about $6,000 or $7,000, we can take care of that.
I think it looks fine just like it is.
Okay, thank you.
Some black paint will fix that right up.
Yeah. Did I vote? Did I vote? Dr. Sasson, can you vote?
Seven for, none against.
All right, next item on the agenda is 3.15, approval of 2-year contract extension for garbage collection services.
Mr. President, I move that the board instructs staff to bid out garbage collection service for 2019.
So just to clarify, your motion is to not approve the extension and to direct them to bid out the garbage collection services.
That's another way to say it.
Do we have a motion? Anybody second? Ms. Morris. So we have a motion by Mr. Hidalgo, second by Ms. Morris, to not approve the extension and to bid out the garbage collection services. Any public comment on this item? Mr. Bortle.
Mr. President, may I ask why?
The board received, well, I can tell you, from my perspective, the board received an email from an entity interested in bidding who was an unsuccessful bidder previously. They would like to see the bid competed as an opportunity to potentially provide cost savings to us, and that was the justification. So.
To add to that, my justification is, I know we entered into a contract, the existing contract in 2016, for a year with a year extension opportunity, which we did, and so this one would end this year in 2018, and I just think that it's healthy to compete. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with trying to get a better deal. I don't think we do it often enough, so I'd like to see us put it out to bid. It was a pretty, if I remember right, pretty contentious process the last go round, but that's what competition brings, so I'd like to see it bid out.
And my perspective is I am in favor of the motion. I did speak with one of the employees, the employee that sent the email to us, and there sounds like a valid opportunity for us to potentially save money. Mr. Santani.
I'm going to assume staff foresaw that we would approve the 2-year extension. Does this put us in any danger? 1-year extension.
First of all, it's a 1-year extension. And
the year 2 contract
year
extension.
2 contract. And the current contract ends June 30th.
June 30th.
And so we would need to extend the current contract at least through September in order to give us time to bid this out.
This is my question. Well, it's a 2-part question. So that's the first part of the question. The second part of the question is this would impact our recycling services that we receive, correct? Because waste management does our recycling also.
Yes, correct. When we put out the RFP, I think it was in 15-16 or 16-17.
For the add-on recycling.
We had in the RFP a recycling component. There were 4 vendors who submitted responses to the RFP at the time. 2 included recycling components and 2 did not include recycling components. I looked back at the minutes and the agenda item for that RFP. That was on August 3rd of 2016. The contractor who actually had the highest number of points on the RFP did not have a recycling component. That contractor also had the highest cost proposal, which was over the budget that we had for garbage collection services, so that contractor was not recommended. We went to the second highest number of points, which is Waste Management, the contractor we have now, and they did have a recycling component, which they were recommended, and we entered into a contract with them at that time. At this point, it's staff would have to rework the RFP, which is going to take anywhere from a month to 2 months to rework the RFP and get it to the board for approval. Once the board approves it, it goes out for about 30 days. Those vendors who are interested, it's a pretty big process on their part to put together all the information for the RFP, so it ends up costing them some time and money to put together the RFP. The staff then has to evaluate it and bring a recommendation back to the board. So we could be anywhere from 4 months to maybe as much as 5 months down the road before a new recommendation is made. And the current contractor is serving us admirably well.
I would just like one comment, and then
Sure.
I'll relinquish the floor. I appreciate this. That was my question: is what kind of bind does this put us in if we try to bid this out? Because I too favor Mr. Hidalgo's position that competition yields the best value for the taxpayer. I would suggest that perhaps where there is a binary choice here, whether we could extend the contract or bid it out, that we get this on our agenda a little bit more than 18 days before the end of the contract next time.
Mr. Hidalgo?
Yeah, I want to add to the motion, but I want to suggest that as well. I mean, I appreciate the fact, not in a good way, I appreciate the fact that this is going to kind of put us in a bad situation, but I didn't put this item on the agenda. And I think we can do a better job of having this instead of just assuming an approval of an extension on our agenda in plenty of time. So I'd like to amend my motion, or add to my motion rather, that not only that staff bid out garbage collection services for 2019, but that they try to strike a 90-day extension of this contract and get this done in 90 days.
Okay, so the motion's been amended, the same by Mr. Hidalgo, same second by Ms. Morris. Mr. Angel.
Kyle, is the recommendation from you and the staff to extend this for a year while working on the bid process? Is that your recommendation?
No, sir. My recommendation was simply to extend for one additional year, because the way the contract is, the way the RFP was set up was, it's a 1-year contract with potential to renew for up to, I think it was 4 additional years, and this is just to extend into year 2. We just do it 1 year at a time.
So your recommendation is to extend the contract?
Yes, for 1 year.
Okay.
Information. Point of information.
Hold on. Mr. Angel.
Then, I still have the floor, Mr.
Yes, sir.
President?
Mr. Angel.
Then I want to make a substitute motion that we extend the contract with Waste Management for a year, and then give them that time to come up with an RFP for the following year.
Thank you. So we have a substitute motion by Mr. Angel, second by Mr. Broussard, to extend the contract, to go ahead with the original approval of the year 2 contract extension for garbage collection services. So with that, I'll open it up to public comment. Board member comment. Dr. Chasson.
All right, so somebody help me out here. Everybody is in favor of allowing the actual process to take place for the RFP, but one way we're gonna hold off on it completely. The other way is to renew until we can.
1 year. Motions are a 90-day period to do the bid process. The other is to extend it a year and do a 90-day bid process.
Excuse me.
Okay. I'm all for allowing the RFP process to take place and basically waiting. I think that was the original motion. What's the time frame we have, Kyle? Mr. Bordelon?
I would think under normal circumstances, we're talking about at least a 4-month process, potentially 5. By the time we get the RFP together, get the board to approve it, put it out for advertising and responses, and comes back in, staff has time to sit down and review, evaluate, and get a recommendation back to the board, get it on the next board agenda, and with a recommendation for approval.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
I'd like you to consider, as you're deliberating this, that we have functionally been put in a position that we're either going to extend it for a year or we're going to go through the RFP, because we got it from their point of view. Mr. Bordelon just told us that it's going to be 4 or 5 months before we're able to get the RFP executed with bids and everything like that. Why on earth would they agree to a 90-day extension when they know the alternative is to go 5 months without trash pickup at our schools?
Right.
We're either agreeing to the year extension or we're going with 5 months with no trash pickup at our schools.
Which of course
that's what we're debating.
Which of course we wouldn't do. However, I just don't think the RFP process is going to take us 4 to 5 months to get it back.
I agree with you.
Like my first initial thought when I heard Mr. Bordelon say it was, there's no way that this process will or can or even should take us 4 to 5 months. The 1 month to 2 month time frame of reworking the RFP, I think that could be done by tomorrow, honestly. And I don't know Mr. Bordelon's job, but I'm sure the RFP can't be that much different than the one we previously put out. So I think by next board meeting we can have some more information on that. I'd be more inclined to stay with the allow this RFP to take place and just ask staff if they could just get it done.
I also don't think we approve, I think we changed that where we're no longer approving RFPs, we're approving bid awards. But, Mr. Hidalgo.
Got 2 questions. If this does take 4 to 5 months, why on earth is it on our agenda tonight? And the second question, it says here in this amendment, whereas the initial term of the original contract was from September 1st, 2016 to June 30th, 2017, and the school board exercised this option to extend the initial term for an additional year beginning July 1, 2017, ending June 30, 2018. When I believe I heard that this is the 1-year extension. However, this document says last year was the 1-year extension. Help me out.
Mr. Knesnik?
Dr. Aguilar?
So a couple of reasons why the recommendation came from the staff. Number one, we're receiving excellent service currently. Number two, we are expanding in August to all 40 campuses in the recycling program. This initially began as a 5-school pilot. It has grown exponentially to the point where all schools will be recycling in August. The difference between the current low bid and the individual that sent you an email asking for you to put this out for bid, the difference in their quotes was $113,000 difference. We are getting garbage collection at a very fair price. And so we were asking you to consider a year extension on their contract. They've given us great service, they've expanded recycling, and they've given us arguably a very, very good competitive price. That's why we brought this to your attention. Now, the board can choose to do whatever it chooses. If you want to put this out, we'll work as fast as we can. But we will need to address a possible extension.
Ms. Morris.
All right, I'm torn on this because my first instinct is to go with the initial motion, which was the 90-day extension. But at the same time, with us in June now and school starting in August, I'm hesitant to make any significant change that's going to affect the start of school. We already had that issue last year with transportation. I don't think this would be quite the same, but I think it could still cause some chaos. So I think I'm going to vote to extend the 1-year contract, but with the request that you not come back next year and ask for another extension, that about halfway through that the RFP process be started so that it has ample time to be completed before the 1-year extension comes to a close. That's going to be my request, or we can add it into the motion to make it a directive. And I think that that is going to avoid any issues with the start of school and the transition to from another vendor. So you'll add that to your motion, Mr. Angel?
Dr. Chasson.
If we go through the RFP process, and granted, I'm just speculating. I don't know what waste management totally involves, but I don't foresee that if we're going to request from our current vendor that we'd like to do a 60-day extension, a 90-day extension, that we can pay for those services and they will refuse us. I don't see that happening. I don't see them being the public entity that they are to refuse the school system. Hey, listen, we'd like to put this out for bid because we want to be sure we're getting the best price. We'd like to do a 3-month extension, and they would turn us down. I don't foresee that happening. But then you might not get chosen again. So then, because it's, I mean, obviously we didn't go with the first person that was number one on the list.
Can I tell you a story real quick?
Sure.
So when I was 20 years old, I had this old beat up car. And I had just replaced the radiator. I went to a junkyard, got the radiator, got it running again. I put it in the quick quarter for $1,500. This poor guy shows up at my apartment, and he just got him a job down in New Iberia working at the port. Lives in Lafayette, and he's telling me on a Sunday that his first day of work is Monday. He's like, I got to be in New Iberia 5:30 tomorrow morning. Keep in mind, this is 5:30 Sunday evening. All right, and he brought his friend with him. That new cars, his friend gets under the car, they take it for a spin, he looks at the engine, everything like that. Friend gets out of there, he says, what you think? Friend says, I wouldn't buy this car. Right in front of me. I know he's telling the truth. I wouldn't have bought that car either. This guy looks at his friend and he says, but man, I got to be in New Iberia in 12 hours. And it was right then that he looks at me and says, would you take $900? And I looked at him and I said, absolutely not. I will take $1,500. It's your decision. And he looked at me and he went, oh, guess I got to pay it. Now, I want you to put yourself in the position, I'll tell you the story, to put yourself in the position of, I want you to think about September 1st. What's it going to be like on September 1st on one of our campuses if trash hadn't been picked up for 2 months? Okay? Which I think we'll all agree, let's just say that the RFP process takes a month, and that we're able to get it tomorrow. So that means we're going to have trash on campuses for a month before we're even realistically, at the earliest possible moment, able to execute an RFP. Now, if you're waste management and we go to you and say, listen, man, we need a 30-day extension so we can get through this RFP process, make sure we're getting the best price. This all sounds good in theory. They're going to think, well, the only other alternative these guys have is to let trash build up on their campuses for a month and a half or 2 months. So it's either 12 months or done. Take it or leave it. And all we're going to look at them and think is, I got to get to New Iberia in 12 hours.
I understand.
That is not a position of strength that you're trying to negotiate from. This is a crappy deal that got sprung on us on the last minute, and we have no legitimate options. That's our problem.
I understand what you're saying. I honestly think we can make a phone call tonight or tomorrow to inquire. If they say absolutely not, then we can simply have a little special meeting to decide. But besides waste management, the people that were number one, that was Waste Connections. We can contact them and ask them for 3 months because we're going through the process. And if Waste Connection says no, we can go to Republic Services, who were 3rd on that list. And Republic Services, or we can go 4th and go to, or 4th is Pelican. We can go with Pelican. Somebody will pick up our trash for us at the possibility that they may get that contract.
Appreciate the doom and gloom story.
Mr.
But this
Guidry.
ain't a $1,500 car.
Hold on, Mr. Guidry.
You still got that car, man? Oh, he sold it.
Question, Mr. Bolo, how many containers roughly?
Mr. Gid,
Close a couple of hundred?
I would say at least a couple of hundred containers.
So
if we switch vendors, I mean, there's a couple of hundred containers have to be swapped out from one vendor to another. They don't use.
So the reason why I'm asking that question is, most of the companies mentioned are not going to have a couple hundred containers sitting in their yard.
I do think that the board has gotten the point that it is going to be a monstrous feat for us to switch vendors. But I think the board's also made a very good point in that you put us in a very difficult position. You've given us no choice. And I'm looking at all of you. You've given us no choice. You've said, approve this extension, or else nobody's going to be available to pick up our trash, or we're going to get an astronomical price to pick up our trash for an extension. So with that, I think that this revised, I mean, personally, I think the revised language is a decent compromise that will provide an opportunity in 6 months for anyone who's interested today in rebidding, but won't put us in a bind over the next 12 months. So that's just my opinion on that. Any other public comment or board member comment? Yes, sir.
Thank you. Just to kind of give you guys a idea of the process. So the board still approves RFPs that go out. So if this RFP is reissued, this RFP would come to the board as a draft at the next board meeting. If the board approves the RFP, we would advertise it out. It would have to be advertised out for at least 15 days. We do have kind of like I guess an opinion from Hammonds and Seals that things such as garbage collection shouldn't be advertised out for just 15 days. You need about 30 days for somebody to really respond back to an RFP of that caliber. So we probably would give them 30 days to respond. After that, you're going to have an evaluation committee evaluate the responses that we receive. We'll probably receive the same 4 responses that we received when we put this out in 2016. You're looking at an evaluation committee of 3 to 5 people, probably 4 or 5. It's going to take them about a week, week and a half, maybe 2 weeks to evaluate all the responses objectively, because that's the way we do the RFPs, and then make a recommendation to the board. So you're looking at possibly not receiving a recommendation until the September meeting or the October meeting.
I do have I guess a comment and or question. When we do reconsider potentially an RFP or any RFP, one of the lessons learned, I think, from this process was when we put out for something like this that is capital intensive. I mean, it's expensive to purchase, fabricate all those containers, have the trucks and all that necessary in order to do this. But when we as an entity put out a contract for 1 year and then make over that 5-year term, make each year an option, I guess the frugal, more conservative companies are amortizing the upfront expense annually and not over that 5-year period because of the risk of something like this, because these options can be pulled or not awarded. So I think we may get a better deal if we're willing to accept the risk, because it is a risk on our part. We may get a better deal if next time we put this out, we actually put it out for a 5-year deal, not a 5 1-year deals, because we're not getting the benefit of the long-term, we're not getting the benefit of the vendor being able to amortize their upfront costs over a longer period of time. Yes, sir.
I'd like to ask Mr. Guidry if we are able to contract out for a multi-year period of time. My understanding from either the auditors or legal counsel was that we're only supposed to contract 1 year at a time, which is why we set up the RFPs and some of these contracts this way, that it's a 1-year contract with an option to renew for 2, 3, or 4 years. From looking at it from a vendor's point of view, if they think that they might have a 4-year contract, I can see where they may give us a better price, thinking that, okay, if I give them good service, I probably got a good 4-year contract. And I'm all about getting the lowest price, don't get me wrong, but if this becomes a one-year contract repeatedly, where we put an RFP out every year, then I think that's going to get the word out on the street is, okay, well, I might have a one-year contract, and that's probably about it. So, you know, I don't know if that's going to cause the prices to go up or down. But anyway, but back to Mr. Guidry, can we contract out for multi-year?
I think, yes, we can if we put a non-appropriation clause, you know, where if the funds aren't provided in the budget, then that in effect would terminate the contract. I agree with Mr. Knezik's comments that you know, if you have a one-year contract, there'd be a tendency to recoup the cost in a shorter period of time. On the other hand, one of the benefits of having a one-year contract with the one contract with the option to renew is it pretty much holds their feet to the fire in terms of service, because that first year it's typically for the most part very good service that's provided. And so there's an upside to it from the standpoint that they know that if that doesn't continue, their contract's not going to continue. So there's an incentive for them to continue to do well and not drop it down a notch in terms of the service. Now, with regards to competition, that's important. You know, cost savings, that's important. When you're looking at a service that at this level, where there's, you know, that service is, I don't want to say it's entrenched, but it's a big process to make the switch because of the sheer number of containers that are involved, and then the coordination of those containers. But the point I wanted to make is, when after the first year, we met with them and we said, we want to see how many garbage containers you are going to remove, because we're now recycling, and so we have removed, you know, X percentage of the waste stream. So let's see how many containers, garbage containers, you're going to remove. And they came back and they did that. And so we said, well, we want to expand that program, and we expect you to come back, and we expect to recognize a similar savings, because basically when you switch from garbage collections to recycling, there's going to be a savings there. So that process saved us money. The fact that they're either the lowest bidder or the lowest responsive bidder, and there's a minimal increase from year to year, that's another indication that that we're getting a fair price. It's not going up much from the year before that you bid it out, or even 2 years before that. The other companies that have bid, you know, you ask yourself, what has happened over that year or that 2-year time period that's going to allow them to come back and cut their bid by $50 or $60 or $70,000? Probably not much. So the point, again, the point I'm making there is, I recognize and I support, I'm all for competitive bid process. When you look at this particular one, because of just the sheer, the nature of the business, you know, the amount of collaboration that it takes to make the switch, the amount of effort, the time it takes, the fact that it is awarded and with, you know, some provisions for annual increases, but those increases are going to keep it just as competitive as it was in the year that they were awarded the bid. The fact that we're reducing the garbage service and replacing it with a cheaper recycling service makes me feel better, makes me feel good from the standpoint that we feel that it keeps the process competitive. Doesn't eliminate the need to bid. That I would never, you know, recommend that to the board, but it does make me feel comfortable going 1 or 2 or 3 years for the reasons that I just mentioned. So I appreciate the time that you've allowed me to share my comments with you.
Excuse me, any other comments? Yes, sir, Dr. Chasson.
How much was the contract worth in 2016? And was each renewal the same amount?
The contract was for the waste collection, garbage collection was $1,167,147. It looks like, I'm sorry, back that up. Yeah, the year one was $270,443.
$270,000.
$270,443.
That's for year one.
For year one.
Okay.
That was in 2016. Okay. In year two, it went to $289,616.
And that's with recycling and everything?
Recycling added an additional $1,820 in year one, and I'm looking at their bid sheet back then. Year two for recycling was $1,898.
What was the $1 million number for?
That was
something else?
That was when you total up all 4 years, because it was a 1-year contract with an option to renew for 3 more, so it was potentially a 4-year contract.
Okay.
So when you added up all 4 years, it came up to $1,167,000 and some change.
Gotcha. Anybody's opinion, Mr. Guidry or Mr. Borlaug, Mr. Lee, would we be one? Oh Lord, horrible English. Let me try it again. Are we one of their biggest clients? In your opinion?
Probably so.
Probably so. Okay. All right. So about 280. So less than right under 300 grand per year we pay for the services. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Mr. Hidalgo.
Yeah, so I know that just a typical commercial account is certainly a lot different than this account. This is a large account, but I can tell you that on numerous occasions on commercial accounts I've dealt with waste companies where every year they just inch up and inch up and inch up, and after 3 or 4 years you don't even really have to bid it out because you're not in a per se contract with them. You call them back. Last year on one commercial account I deal with for an organization, all I did was call them up and say, hey guys, what's going on here? They reduced the cost by 30% just by making the phone call. We have no option here. We are left, as was stated many times, with no option to rebid this, and that is a big problem. So if this is on our agenda to make a decision on and we really can't make the decision, that's problematic for me. This is not about getting rid of waste management. This is about bringing integrity back to the process, because this is what happens years over years. And I agree with Mr. Knezik. Why, we need to look at more longer term. There's no way we can't have if we're getting poor service from someone that we're contracted with, there should be some exception in our contract to say, hey, this is unacceptable service. Here's the proof. We want out of this contract. We're out. I mean, service has to be tied to this type of a contract. It should be. So I just don't like the fact that we can't make the decision, and the fact that dealing with these types of things in the past on a lot smaller level, the success is as simple as making a phone call.
One thing I will say, the option to renew was added in there for the board to see this. I know, yes, this was brought in June, but it was added in there for the board to see this. If we do a multi-year contract, this probably is not going to come back before the board. So unless you guys hear about bad service or like Republic with the home pickups having issues, then this won't come back in front of you. But if there's an issue, you won't know, you won't be able to say, hey, we need to put this out again.
We're going to hear about an issue. Believe me, we hear about them all day, every day. We're going to hear about issues. This is not about poor service. This is not about getting rid of waste management. This is about a dollar amount. This is about a contract. This is about an RFP, a bid, stuff that we're paying $200,000 a year on. That's what it's about for me.
And I would just add, because I'm ready to call for the vote, but I would add that if there are performance issues, we can have performance penalties in the contract. I mean, it's kind of like liquidated damages, and we can have penalties just like the city does, even when a trash pickup doesn't happen, if we write the RFP. All right, Madam Secretary, call for the vote. I didn't. I thought it was a great motion. I said it was a great motion.
We did.
Five for, 2 against.
All right, motion passes. Next item is 3.20. Approved bid award C4M Robotics bid number 0119.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to defer.
We have a motion to defer the approval of the bid award with a sec by Ms. Morris, second by Mr. Angel. Do you have any public comment on this item? This is to approve. This is to defer the bid award for C4M Robotics.
All right.
Ms. Morris.
And Dr. LeBlanc, if you could make your way up, because I'm going to have several questions for you, please. The reason I'm asking to defer is that we already approved tonight a new job description for a director of Career Tech and Magnet Academy. So I assume that process is going to be started fairly soon, and we'll be hiring somebody in that position. And we also approved a new principal position for W.D. Smith. So I think that we need to defer at least until we get whichever of those individuals will ultimately become responsible for the robotics program in place. But then I also have several questions that I'd like to ask Dr. LeBlanc or Mr. Craig or Ms. Trosclair about the robotics program. So these are not necessarily going to be in order. Okay, so I just need to get a better understanding of where we're going with this. So first, Dr. LeBlanc, can you tell me kind of a general number or precise number for how much money the board's already approved for a robotics program since, say, about January of 2017? It seems like we're approving money almost every meeting, and I need to have a clear picture of where we are on this.
Mr. Guidry, can I defer that to him to answer?
Okay, you don't,
Or
you're not sure how much money we've approved for the robotics programs?
I mean, so far in terms of our district-wide initiative for K through 8, it was $900,000.
Is that the amount that we approved in about September of 2017?
No. Oh, it was in October. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So that $900,000 is K through 8. So does that include the program at W.D. Smith, or is that separate?
No, ma'am. That's separate.
Okay. All right. And then I did a little research, but I'm not sure if I got everything. Maybe in April of this year, we approved a $200,000 early release and maybe a $400,000 capital improvement fund. Does that sound right?
For the purchase of those items?
Well, this was in April. I'm not real sure what it's for. That was going to be my next question. $200,000 early release, is that what's on the agenda for tonight? That money's coming out of that $200,000?
I think so.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And then the $400,000 was capital improvement for the gymnasium area that we talked about earlier today?
And there's 2 classrooms associated with that.
Okay. All right. So how much have we already approved specifically for Career Center? We got the $400,000 for capital improvement, and then have we already approved like a general fund balance for faculty or students?
Staffing on that was made by adjustments in cutting other program positions.
All right, so for all of the robotics, at least, it's about $1.5 million, and maybe a little bit more. That's with the $900,000 for K through 8, $400,000 capital improvement, and then the $200,000 early release funds. So am I counting right? About $1.5 million. Okay. Now, I can't recall, Dr. LeBlanc, but I think last time you were up here talking to us, I know that you're the science specialist, and I think that there was some conversation about the curriculum that you've either prepared or made available to your teachers. And I assume, or correct me if I'm wrong, those are aligned with state standards?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So how does robotics align with the state standards or with the curriculum?
Each of the items that we purchased have embedded standards within their functionality. So, like for instance, Wonder Workshop or Dash and Dots, you will find lessons within their premium site, which every teacher has access to, that receive those robots, and they are aligned to the standards, both Common Core and Science.
And they align with the Louisiana state standards?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now you did, that was actually my next question. So, so for the curriculum that you've either prepared or provided, or the resources you've provided for the teachers, it's available on what I guess the district website, but if they need it, they need to go make copies of it at their own cost?
At this point, yes, ma'am.
So they pay for their own ink and they have to print everything out. So how much does that cost an average science teacher? How much does it cost them to print out the information that they need from the website out of their own pocket?
It depends on the support from our available funds at each school site.
Okay. So you're not sure what the teachers have to pay out of pocket?
I am not sure.
Okay. All right. So so it's anticipated that there's going to be a robotics program as part of the career tech program at W.D. Smith starting this school year?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so how many students are currently enrolled in that?
Currently there are 12 enrolled, and we have, I spoke to Ms. Wiltz today, and she has a few more parents and students to call.
Okay, so who is Ms. Wiltz?
Ms. Wiltz is the assistant principal at Career Center.
All right, so when I talked to Mr. Craig earlier today, he had said there were either 2 or 4 students. So what happened between earlier today and now to change that number from 4 to 12?
We had a meeting to determine how to recruit students, and Ms. Wiltz explained to us that it was more of a misunderstanding within the students and the families, not knowing what opportunities were available to them. For example, in order to free up some time in their schedule, they can take an online course in order to get all of their core courses completed and free up time.
So they might have to take, for example, social studies on Edgenuity so that they can leave their home-based school to go do the robotics class at W.D. Smith?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, do they, are there any robotics classes, or are they going to get any Carnegie units for any of the robotics classes?
At the Career Center, yes, ma'am.
Carnegie units?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Towards their science requirement?
It's not a core science, but it would count as an elective.
Like an elective, but not a science. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And we have 2 faculty lined up for the robotics program right now?
Yes, ma'am.
They're full-time, or they're going to be part-time and go to another school?
One is full-time and one is part-time, and interim between Career Center and Como.
Okay. And Mr. Craig mentioned, or maybe Dr. Aguilar did, getting Paul Bro students involved. I know that's something I had discussed with Mr. Abear a couple of weeks ago, and I think it's a good idea because of the proximity, but what is that process? What students, is it going to just be the gifted students y'all are reaching out to, or regular ed students at Paul Bro, or who's involved in that decision making? Mr. Guillory?
I'm sorry to interrupt. I actually talked to Mr. Guillory last week, and so the middle school bell schedule doesn't quite match up with the Career Center bell schedule, but I asked him to consider placing his enrichment class, which is held year-round there, in mid-afternoon, so that potentially those gifted kids, we'd be talking primarily gifted kids, could sign up for robotics. And if they would attend that class for the whole year in that enrichment cycle, and I know enrichment's changed since Dr. Chasson and me were there, but potentially they could earn that Carnegie unit at the Paul Bro, but taking the class at the Career Center.
Okay. All right. I thought part of the purpose of Career Tech was to offer the opportunity for other careers for kids that were not going to college. And so it seems to me that if we're going to reach out or create some program in collaboration with Paul Bro, that we'd want to be reaching out to those students who may not be college bound, because that's kind of the purpose of W.D. Smith and the Career Center, right? To introduce them to these different potential careers that don't require a college degree, including welding, not just robotics, but part of it would be to increase the enrollment in the very expensive robotics program. You know, so I don't know that I would like to see it expanded more to just the gifted kids, because I think that's the purpose. The purpose of the Career Center is for those kids that are not going to college, right? So I want to make sure that that's at least on the table for discussions. But for tonight, so what is it that you're specifically asking for with the budget, the two agenda items tonight, and what budget is this coming out of, and what's the purpose of it? What are you asking for, Dr. LeBlanc, on these two agenda items?
Agenda item 3.2, we had 22 items that we had put out for bid. These are heavier duty, larger pieces of equipment to bend metal, cut metal.
That's for 21. That's the
yes,
nuts and bolts.
C4M robotics
okay.
bid 01-19. That's some bigger ticket items. We actually, I was talking to the purchasing agent, we actually had some issues of the 22 items. We've really only received 6 bids. Potentially with approval of the agenda item, I was talking to Mr. Francis, we could get written quotes, because a lot of these items weren't bid out, but in particular the CNC mill, you're talking a big ticket item there, but that would be used to bend metal, cut metal.
And are these things in this agenda item and even the next one, are they needed for the upcoming school year for those 12 students, or are they desires that it would be nice to have in a robotics program? I guess what I'm looking at is weighing the robotics program, which I think sounds fantastic, but weighing that against things that can be put into direct academics from Dr. LeBlanc's science specialist role. You know, getting things to the teachers. I mean, right now the teachers are paying out of pocket, we don't know how much, just to print the items, curriculum or whatever it is, off of the website, but we're being asked to spend $70,000 tonight on items that may be not a necessity, but a wish, a want. And so I'm having a hard time with that right now. I think we need to really put the money into the classroom where it's needed and not just where it's a desire.
So Ms. Morris, without the equipment, there is no robotics program. We would have a refurbished gym and 2 classrooms, but nothing for kids to use.
So we have no equipment at all right now. This would be the first set of equipment that we have at all?
No, ma'am. Como High, over the years, between fundraising and donations, they have a pretty good shop, if you want to call it robotics shop. Acadiana High has a pretty good robotics shop. Thibodeau STEM, I don't know as well their program, but they have some equipment and material. There's nothing at the Career Center, and I don't think we were considering moving those robotics shops from any of those base schools to the Career Center. So we have robotics equipment, we have robotics material. And in the base schools, we don't have anything at the Career Center right now.
All right, I guess I'm just torn on this, especially since we've approved these other two positions. And I said, well, I don't know. I'm assuming, maybe it's not correct, Dr. Aguilar, that once we have a new director and principal at the school, will the robotics program fall under their umbrella, or is it going to remain with Dr. LeBlanc so that her duties are split between science specialist and robotics?
So if we have a very successful deployment of a centralized robotics program, I think it would make sense that it would stay with the Career Center director.
Okay. How long would it take to get this equipment in? Is there a rush that it has to be approved tonight, or when do you anticipate hiring?
The rush is there isn't anything there now. It's just space, and it's ready for occupancy. We can't bring anybody over there and encourage them to join or enroll in the program because there's nothing to show except a clean palette ready for equipment. The two teachers are excited about setting up the lab, setting up the robotics center. We have to start from zero, from scratch, and build this.
Mr. Angel, is it okay?
Yeah, I'm finished for now.
So we have a robotics program at Como?
Yes, sir. Como, Acadiana, and Thibodeau STEM.
Now, well, and they have equipment, could we perhaps have those students, there were 12 students or whatever she's talking about, could we transport them to one of those schools? Instead of having a whole bunch of programs with just a few kids?
And actually, to a certain extent, we do. I know Acadiana High, or I'm sorry, Como High. If you go by Como High any given evening, there's kids from Lafayette High, there's kids from Acadiana, there's kids from Como, there's kids from Southside. They've been very inclusive. They don't offer a class during the day. All the robotics is done at night, and it's a volunteer program, so there's no Carnegie unit involved in it. But because it's such a competitive program, kids come to that school on their own time to work on it, and the teacher of that program takes them with open arms.
Mr. Angel, we expect those kids to gravitate to this center because it will have the competitive field for the robotics competitions. They don't have that at Como or Acadiana or David Thibodeau. We think a lot of these kids are going to come over and participate with the equipment that we're purchasing that some of these schools don't have, the specialized cutting and bending equipment, that we're starting, unfortunately, from zero, trying to build a robotics program to get kids interested in August.
Dr. Aguilar, I have more of a comment or concern. So Granger, I'm going to back up. So a lot of the items you're asking for, I don't know if the board has looked at the bid tabulation. We're talking about basically a miniature machine shop. Metal lathe, CNC router, cold saw, sheet metal, box break, a shop press, 3D printer. I own a machine shop. I just actually started it. I just moved from one machine shop to a new machine shop. Basically started a greenfield machine shop. And Granger is not where I would go to procure any of these items. Mainly because Granger is like it's kind of like a Sears catalog, essentially. It's got everything. So, and I'm not disparaging Granger. It's a wonderful company, wonderful supplier. If you need things short notice, great place to shop. But it's not necessarily the best place to shop for machine shop components. And I know we don't buy machine shop components every day, but if this motion passes to defer, my suggestion would be potentially to work with one of our local machine shops. We have several very reputable machine shops in our parish who buy this type of equipment every day. They may also have equipment that they're willing to donate, but even if we are going through the procurement process, I think that maybe working with some of their specialists who actually buy this type of equipment every day, CNC mills, we might have a better option. Now, I don't know how that conflicts with our procurement regulations, but I do think that we would get much better deals and potentially save a significant amount of money if we worked with a professional who is an expert at supplying machine shops with machine equipment.
So, Ms. Morris, in your mention of the curriculum and the teachers having to copy everything, I met with Dr. LeBlanc today, and you're right, K through 12, all of our district planned curriculum that we have in the schools, all of that is online. So teachers are expected to print any and everything that they need, K through 12, and it is an expense for teachers and for schools. So she and I discussed that today, and we are going back to look at her cost centers. She said possibly through her supplemental resources would be able to help pay for that, because we certainly shouldn't expect teachers out of their own pocket to provide science instruction to their students. So she'll look at her cost center. We'll get back together, and before anything else is purchased from that cost center, we want to have a plan in place to help schools and teachers with the printing of what they're needed to provide instruction.
Thank you, Ms. Trosclair. So, Dr. LeBlanc, for the two teachers that are already committed to the program at W.D. Smith, did they have involvement with choosing which equipment they needed for the program, or is this a decision that you made?
No, ma'am. They had direct involvement.
Okay. I think, especially since we already have 3 robotics programs in place, and I assume that we're going to start the process right away of looking for a director and principal. I think that I'm still inclined to defer this at least until those new individuals are in place, to have them overlook it, to see if that's a direction that they want to go in for the programs that they're going to direct. I think for the 12 students who are already enrolled, we should have enough resources at the other 3 schools that can be shared initially until we can revisit this particular issue. So I'm not adverse to this. I'm just adverse to it at this point in time. It just seems to me that this whole process has been a little bit backwards. That before we determined the interest or the need in the district, we've already got 3 existing programs in place, that we want to spend all the money. We want to build it and hope they'll come. And I hope they do. I think that it can be built up, but it just seems to have been done a little bit backwards. So I think that I'm still going to move that the matter be deferred at least until the next board meeting, and hopefully by then we'll have either the principal and or director who have had a chance to look at what's going on. And I have every confidence that the other schools will be willing to share their resources for the initial week or 2 if necessary, until we can get the equipment in for the students at W.D. Smith.
Any other board member comment? Madam Secretary, call for the vote.
Don't leave early.
Ms. Blanco. We all vote?
7 for, none against.
Great. Motion passes to defer the item. Next item, 321, approved bid award robotics, hand tools, nuts, bolts, and other materials. Ms. Morris?
Same thing, motion to defer. Same as the reason, yeah.
Motion to defer. By Ms. Morris, second by Mr.
Same
Angel.
discussion that we just had on everything.
Any public comment? Any board member comment? No public comment, no board member comment. Madam Secretary, call for the vote.
Seven for, none against.
Motion passes. That item was deferred. Next item, 346, basic life insurance for retirees.
Mr. President, I move that the board approve the recommendation from the Employee Retiree Insurance Advisory Committee on basic life insurance for retirees.
We have a motion by Mr. Santani, a second by Mr. Angel to approve.
And a very small comment, quick comment on this. The gist of the recommended action is the same as what the employee, and it may be identical. There is some question about whether it is, so we are just adopting whatever they recommended, which is essentially that, but may have a word or two out of place.
Great. So the motion is that the board approve limiting retiree basic life insurance to $5,000 effective 1/1/2019 and offering an enhanced voluntary life benefit to all employees and retirees. Do we have any public comment on this item? Any board member comment on this item? Madam Secretary, call for the vote. Ladies and gentlemen, while we're waiting on the vote to come up, this was our final item for the night.
Six for, one abstain.
Motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our business for tonight. Meeting adjourned.